Hi, and welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, September 14th. My name is Ross Benjamin. Welcome to my YouTube sports betting channel. And once again, I'm joined by that gentleman on the other side of me, the owner of picksandparleys.net. What a great site. Mr. Craig Trapp, how are you today?
Well, pretty excited. After I always say it's like, it's getting to Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, like getting to the start of the NFL, like college football, you get a couple of weeks early, and then you get to the NFL, and then it's like, oh my goodness, it's here. And we still have, 4 months left of football. So very excited. As a handicapper like I am, I need to see the games before I actually bet on the teams and lay down big money. So now that we've done that, I'm excited to see week 2 of the NFL and week 3 of college football.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us that do this for a living share your sentiment is you want to see a little bit of a sample size. There's not a lot to go on in week 1, especially in college football.
You hear that? The dogs are barking.
Yeah, maybe look,
maybe
we're going
to be on the dogs this time.
So we're going to give you a couple college football free picks for Saturday, the 18th. And before we get to that, Craig, tell the folks just a little bit about picksandparleys.net. I'm a proud handicapper at that site. Great site, folks. Great handicappers, well run. And again, Craig, take it away.
Yeah, we've been around for a decade plus now, and pretty proud of what we do because we are very transparent, and that's the key in this industry is transparency. Anybody on social media can say they're great or bad, good, or indifferent, but no one until you see the records, and not only see the records, but be able to open them up and actually, if you go to any of the experts that we have, 30 of us over at Picks and Parlays, including myself and you can actually click the picks they did, see their analysis, and see, hey, is this something that I would want to bet on before you even, obviously place a purchase on either a daily package for a day or long-term packages like a subscription for 3 or 7 days or something like that.
Yeah, sometimes the analysis is more important when you lose a pick than when you win, because it's easy to shun somebody when they lose a game. But if you see the method to their madness, look, it's all about winning, right, Craig? We need to win. But, we don't, and nobody wins all the time. So you want to know what this person was thinking going into a game, even after a loss, let alone a win. So very important.
And I also say there's a loss like, I had the San Francisco 49ers actually pushed. They were up 24 and I had it at 8 and they pushed. So, that's a loss. And then there's a loss where, if you had, say, the Tennessee Titans, which a lot of public money on the Tennessee Titans week 1, and we gave that out last week as our free pick. And obviously we were completely wrong because the Titans were terrible and the Arizona Cardinals were great. So I think sometimes you can actually see what they picked and that analysis. So both can kind of lead you to, is a handicapper hot? Did they get maybe lucky or did they maybe get unlucky?
Yeah, well, these bad losses are going to happen on occasion. Yep. And I always tell the customers when something like that happens, hey, is the ticket window you went to, is the teller coming out and asking you for more money because you lost badly? Same thing when you win by a route. When you go to cash the ticket, nobody's saying, man, that was impressive, Ross. Here's an extra 100. So these types of things are going to happen. Not to make you look bad, but I did have at picksandparleys.net, I did have my 10-star top play on the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. So, sometimes we're on opposite sides. Sometimes one looks brilliant and the other doesn't, and vice versa. So it happens. Anyway, Craig, a free pick today in college football on Saturday's matchup between Purdue and Notre Dame. Take it away, my friend.
What they say, not all teams are created equal when it comes to records at this point of the year. I mean, they're both 2-0. But I mean, you have Notre Dame surviving Toledo right at the end, had to come back to beat Toledo, had to come hold on and win in overtime against Florida State that then loses to one AA school the next week. And then you face a Purdue team that's 2-0 that, hasn't really, I would say, been tested yet. So we're at that point of the season. You see Notre Dame -7, a total of 58.5. I think that line is representative of how much Notre Dame has struggled because, Notre Dame at home. So you're getting the 3 points. You're saying Notre Dame's just only 4 points. I think that's very telling, Ross, when you look at this game, because Notre Dame's Defense, I thought would be really good. I thought the offense would actually struggle, but it's been the defense that's kind of let them down. I mean, Florida State marched up and down the field against them. So I could see where everybody, including the public's probably going to be on Purdue at +7, but I think it's a little overreacting because to me, Notre Dame at home, they have the full attention. Brian Kelly has the full attention of this very talented team. They're young in some spots. Jack Cohn been up and down a little bit as quarterback. But I love their tight end, Mayer. I think he's going to be a future NFL guy. I think you take Notre Dame here -7. To me, I just think if Notre Dame didn't say Notre Dame won by double digits the last week, just to say it's 10. They weren't super impressive, but they won by 10, so people see it in the box scores. I think this line's like 7.5 to 10 range. So to me, you're getting it at that key number 7. I'm going to take Notre Dame at home -7 against an unproven Purdue team that I think is a little overrated at this point.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at it. Notre Dame is due for a really good effort, and based on their 2 results in the first 2 games, 2 wins, 1 in overtime, each by 3 points against less than stellar competition. Yeah, Florida State, and all of a sudden, you're right, Craig. That does not look like as great a win now as it did then after they lost to Jacksonville State last week. The only
I will
other
say though, Ross, when you think about that first game, remember that was game 1 after Bobby Bowden died.
Yeah,
there was a lot of juice on the side of Florida State, even though those players obviously didn't play for him. All the greats were back. All of his ex-players, they had the patch. I think they played extra motivated. It was a huge letdown spot the next week. So I think that is more what you saw from Florida State. I actually thought Florida State played great game 1. Obviously, the game 2 was a letdown, but this is not the Florida State of old, though. That is 100% for sure. I mean, Bobby
Bowden been for a while.
Yeah, long gone. They ran Bobby Bowden out of town since then. Not so great.
No, it hasn't been that great in a while at Florida State. So, in any event, I will say one thing that I always look at. The only thing that I'm skeptical about that pick, and I'm certainly going to trust your judgment on that, but when I see this jumped right off the page, when I see like a ranked team in the top 15, like Notre Dame, and they're only laying 7 on the road against an unranked team that really hasn't done anything in the last few years, Craig, it makes me a little bit leery. But on the other side of the coin, if you watch Notre Dame the first 2 weeks like we have, you know what they're capable of. And I got a feeling too that
think about this though, Ross.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, go down the recruits. I mean, the Jimmies and the Joes at Notre Dame are super, super talented, have huge edge. That means zero when it comes to, week in, week out. But at some point, they have bigger, stronger, faster guys. That matters. I mean, we see it week in, week out. Notre Dame, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. These teams, I mean, the guys transfer out and they start at these schools like Purdue. Guys will transfer out now, especially with the new no set-out clause, will be transferring to the teams like Purdue and be able to walk in and be the best player on the offensive defensive side of the ball. That's how talented Notre Dame is in their 2 and 3 deeps. Now, they're young in a lot of spots. So that, but Brian Kelly, Brahm's a great coach. Obviously Purdue, it's just, they just don't get the talent that Notre Dame gets. So Brian Kelly, I trust. I'm a big Cincinnati Bearcat fan. So when he was in town, turned the program around. I've always, being a Catholic school kid from Cincinnati, I had the same fight song in my high school as Notre Dame. So to me, I always kind of, have a soft spot in my heart for Notre Dame, even though they've let me down so many times. I think at that 7 number, but if you like it, I'd say, we're filming this on Tuesday, you better bet it, because I have a feeling Notre Dame usually brings big money in. Yeah. This line might end up in that 7.5 range. And then that's a very tough, to me, then you have to buy that 0.5 point.
Got to buy a 0.5 point. Correct. And remember, folks, the juice only counts when you lose. So if you do the math, if you get 1 push out of buying off a hook on a key number, you're ahead of the game. So a lot of people don't realize that. And that's a good point, Craig. And I'm going to take a look at the Colorado State and Toledo game, Craig. And right now, the total in this game is 58.5. And that's what I'm going to hone in on. Toledo, you just mentioned off that 32-29 heartbreaking loss at Notre Dame last week, but boy, they were impressive in the loss, and they showed they can move the ball. They're equally balanced between run and pass, and they have been in the first two games. They put up a ton of points in the first game against Abilene Christian. Again, you can't take that too seriously, but they're going to be playing against a Colorado State team that's been torched defensively in their first two games, and it's not like they played outstanding competition. They opened the year with the home favorite straight up loss against a FCS team in South Dakota State. Granted, South Dakota State's a good FCS program, but come on, they got blown out 42-23. And then last week they turned on, they hosted that mighty powerhouse Vanderbilt, and they lost 24-21 at home. And even Vanderbilt moved the ball on them. One thing I will say, Colorado State has shown a pretty good passing game so far, and they've played extremely fast in their first two games. Craig, they've averaged 80 offensive plays per game. So that's a lightning quick pace. And these teams are both experienced. They bring back a combination of 40 starters between the two teams. And they did meet back in 2019. And most of these players that are starting right now participated in that game. And that game was played at Colorado State. Toledo won that game 41-35, easily going over the total. And those teams amassed a combined over 1,200 yards of total offense. I think 58.5 is not a huge number by college football standards when it comes to totals. And I'm going to go Colorado State and Toledo over 58.5. And folks, if you have the ability to buy it down at 58, I would recommend you do so. That's not a sign of weakness, folks. It's just smart betting. And nothing infuriates me more when it comes to totals in college football and to lose by half a point. I could live with a push, but it gnaws at me if I lose a game by a half a point. So, Craig, any final thoughts?
Well, on that game, though, when you talk about the plays per game, just to throw that out there, most teams that aren't, these super fast, Ole Miss will be a team that gets a lot more plays. Most teams are in the high 60s, low 70s. So when you get into the 80s, that is a very fast pace, a team that you most likely are going to be wanting to play overs in.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised.
Overs are 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that too, Craig, because Steve Adazio, the former head coach at Boston College, who couldn't get the Eagles to score more than seemed like 2 touchdowns per game, is the head coach there. So, in any event, it's a good note. But Craig, how have you been doing personally at picksandparleys.net?
Well, I had a great weekend last weekend. Week 1 of NFL was really good. I think my best bets were 4-0-1 over a 4-day period, Friday through Monday. We did lose the Thursday night football game. Talked myself off the over. That's the worst. I took the Tampa Bay and I loved the over, and I was just like, I think maybe Dallas will try to slow this down and keep it out of Tom Brady's hands. And it was basically at halftime, you knew I knew at half what it was going to happen, that Cowboys were going to cover, it's going to go over, and I was on the wrong side of it. So sometimes you feel like you have a chance, like the Monday Night Football game, but not so much. But 4-0-1, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We look to keep it going this week. I think this weekend we'll have tons of best bets and bonus plays. So go over to Picks and Parlays, check out all of our experts, myself, Russ, any of our other guys. You can see the records of who's doing well right now as far as last 7 days, last 30 days, yesterday. Even you can check the leaderboards out for past seasons. So it's a good thing to check because, some of our best guys are the best at certain sports. So, if a guy's been historically really good at college football, that might be a guy that you want to play on Saturdays. And then some guys are really good at NFL. So that's the guys you want to play on Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays.
Yep. And you could also find me at picksandparleys.net. And I would encourage you check me out there, folks. So far this football season, 3-0 at my 10-star top plays. A lot of people label their best bets. I label it as a 10-star top play. So look out for that at picksandparleys.net. For week number 1, I had Texas San Antonio +5 outright over Illinois as my 10-star top play. Last week, Appalachian State +9 in a narrow 2-point loss over against Miami. And then on Sunday, much to Craig's chagrin, and I don't mean to rub it in, but Arizona plus the 3, a 38-13 blowout winner against Tennessee. Last night, I had the Oakland Raiders. How many times have I said that?
A lot.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I wrote it down even like that.
I can't get used to that, Las Vegas Raiders, I had them in a thrilling game, +3 last night. They tried not to cover that game at the end, but it came through. Again, picksandparleys.net is a site, folks. Craig Trapp is the headmaster there. And I'm also there as well, and a lot of other great handicappers as well. Until the next time, folks, good luck, God bless, and take care.